He tried to bully a black woman at the gym. He had no clue she was a Marine Corps Force Recon colonel. What happened next stunned everyone watching. The downtown fitness complex in Atlanta buzzed with after-work energy. Weights clanked, shoes squeaked, and music pulsed in the background. Among the sweaty crowd was Joan, a 35-year-old black woman who moved with unmistakable purpose. Her workout was all business. Deadlifts, burpees, and pull-ups. She kept to herself, never seeking attention or small talk. Today followed her usual pattern. Joan wore simple black workout clothes with earbuds in, a clear sign she wanted to be left alone. While setting up at the squat rack, a man's shadow fell across her space. Something about him felt wrong from the start. Mid-40s, muscular, with a smirk that made Joan instantly alert. "That's not how you do it," he said, his words dripping with fake concern. Joan pulled out one earbud, eyebrow raised. "Excuse me?" "The weights," he pointed, speaking like he was teaching a child. "You're setting them up wrong. You'll hurt yourself." Joan's smile was tight but polite. "Thanks, but I'm good." But he planted himself beside her like he owned the equipment, crossing his arms across his chest. "Been coming here for years," he boasted. "Let me show you how it's done right." "Not necessary," Joan said firmly, replacing her earbud and turning back to her workout. His smirk twisted into something ugly. He muttered words Joan couldn't hear, but she felt their poison. People nearby noticed the tension, but looked away quickly. No one wanted to get involved. Joan continued her workout with perfect form, but the man hovered nearby, watching her like a hawk, whispering critiques she ignored. Then it happened. Joan moved to the bench press, adjusting her weights, when the man spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "Women like you think you know everything, don't you?" Joan froze mid-movement. Slowly, she turned to face him, calm on the surface but fire in her eyes. "What exactly do you mean by that?" The gym grew quieter. The clanking weights and chatter seemed to fade. Curious eyes darted their way, but no one stepped forward. The man shrugged, enjoying his audience. "I'm just saying maybe stick to what you're actually good at." Joan just stared at him, long and hard, then calmly went back to her workout. But something had shifted. A line had been drawn, and tension crackled in the air. The man wouldn't drop it. His words hung around them like a bad smell. Joan could feel his eyes burning into her back. She finished her set, ignoring him, and walked to the water fountain. Those few steps gave her time to think. She'd seen his type before. Men desperate to control any space they entered. Her years of training had prepared her for far worse, but she felt the heat of the moment building. As Joan reached for her water bottle, he stalked after her. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, jaw tight with anger. "Hey," he barked. "I'm talking to you." Joan's grip tightened on her bottle, but she didn't look at him. With deliberate calm, she took a slow sip as the room held its breath. "Look," he sneered. "You don't need to act tough. If you can't handle it, just say so. I'll help you." Now Joan turned to face him, her voice cool as steel. "Struggling? The only struggle I have is with your refusal to leave me alone." Nearby, people stopped pretending not to notice. Some paused their workouts completely, tension clear on their faces. Would he back down? Would she? The man laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "You think you're better than me?" he snapped, stepping closer. "What makes you so special?" Joan's eyes narrowed slightly, but her voice stayed steady. "Nothing makes me special, but I know how to handle myself. Do you?" That hit a nerve. His face darkened like a storm cloud, and he moved even closer, voice dropping to a dangerous growl. "You better watch your mouth." The gym was fully alert now. No one pretended to ignore what was happening. A young man on a treadmill looked ready to jump in, glancing between Joan and the aggressor. Joan caught his eye and gave a tiny head shake. She didn't need rescuing, but the man was losing control, and everyone could feel disaster coming. His anger boiled over, fists clenched tight. He stepped right into Joan's personal space. She didn't flinch. She stood taller, eyes locked on his, completely calm. Not defiance, pure control. A silent message that she feared nothing. "Got quite a smart mouth on you, don't you?" he spat, voice echoing off the gym walls. The room was frozen in tension. Gym staff whispered urgently behind the counter, unsure what to do. Others stood paralyzed, wanting to help but not knowing how. Joan took a deep breath and let it out slowly. "You need to calm down," she said with quiet authority. Not a suggestion, a command. Her words only made him angrier. He grabbed her arm roughly. Gasps spread through the gym. Joan went completely still, like a predator calculating its move. "What are you gonna do about it?" he taunted, tightening his grip. "Huh?" Then everything exploded into action. Joan moved with lightning speed. Her free hand locked around his wrist with iron strength. In one fluid motion, she twisted his arm, forcing him to release her. The sudden power shift shocked him, pain and surprise twisting his face as she stepped back. Out of reach, but fully in control. "Let me make one thing crystal clear," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut through the stunned silence. "You don't ever put your hands on me." The man stumbled backward, clutching his wrist, his tough guy act crumbling. But instead of walking away, he roared with rage and charged at her. This time, Joan held nothing back. She sidestepped his clumsy attack with graceful ease, using his own momentum against him. In one smooth move, she swept his legs out from under him, sending him crashing to the floor with a thunderous bang. The gym erupted in chaos. People shouted and scrambled backward. Phones came out, recording everything. The man lay groaning on the mat, dazed and humiliated, as Joan stood over him, rock solid and unflinching. "You really can't take a hint, can you?" she said, voice low so only he could hear. For a heartbeat, he looked ready to try again, but something in her eyes stopped him cold. The truth hit him too late. She wasn't just confident. She was trained. Dangerous. His eyes filled with sudden fear. The damage was done. The entire gym had witnessed not just his bullying, but his humiliating defeat by someone he'd underestimated. The gym buzzed with whispers and clicking phones. Joan stood tall, breathing steady, scanning the room. Her stance was calm but powerful, daring anyone else to cross the line. The man scrambled to his feet, face twisted with rage, shame, and confusion. "You're crazy!" he shouted, pointing at her like a cornered rat. "You think you can just—" "Enough!" Joan cut him off, her words slicing through his rant like a blade. "You've embarrassed yourself plenty for one day. Leave." A gym employee finally stepped forward, a young woman with wide, frightened eyes. "Sir," she said, voice trembling, "you need to go. Now." The man's jaw clenched tight. For a moment, he seemed ready to fight more. But the weight of every stare, disgusted, angry, judging, finally sank in. His shoulders slumped in defeat. Muttering under his breath, he grabbed his bag and stormed out, slamming the door so hard it shook. As the door banged shut, the whole room seemed to breathe again. Someone started clapping, then others joined in, applause spreading through the crowd. Joan raised her hand for quiet. "It's over," she said simply. People slowly returned to their workouts, though whispers and glances continued. A young man approached her cautiously, phone still recording. "That was amazing," he said, voice filled with awe. "Are you some kind of fighter or something?" Joan gave a small smile, eyes still serious. "Something like that," was all she offered. Another gym-goer, a middle-aged woman, stepped closer. "Are you okay?" That was scary to watch. "I'm fine," Joan replied calmly but firmly. Thank you for asking. The young woman from the front desk appeared, wringing her hands nervously. Ma'am, I'm so sorry. I should have stepped in earlier. I just didn't know what to. You did what you could, Joan interrupted gently. Not everyone knows how to handle situations like that. The employee nodded, still looking worried. Should we call the police? He might come back. Joan thought for a moment. No need, she said with absolute certainty. He's not coming back. Trust me. Her confidence left no room for doubt. She turned and headed to the locker room to get her things. As she walked away, whispers followed her, and the weight of what happened hung in the air, leaving everyone to process what they'd seen. Joan entered the locker room with measured steps. Catching her reflection in the mirror, she saw a calm, composed face looking back. No triumph, no gloating. This wasn't about proving anything to anyone. It was about making it clear. Respect isn't optional. She packed her things quietly, letting the rush of adrenaline fade. Just as she zipped her bag, the young woman from the front desk entered cautiously. Her name tag read Melissa. She hovered by the door, fidgeting nervously. Can I ask you something? Melissa finally said. Joan turned, her gaze steady but kind. Sure. Melissa hesitated, then blurted out. How did you stay so calm? He was so aggressive, and you just... How did you do that? Joan leaned against the bench, arms folded. It's not about staying calm, she explained. It's about knowing you can handle whatever happens. Fear loses its power when you're prepared. Melissa tilted her head curiously. So you've had training? Military or something? Joan nodded slightly. I served as a Marine Corps Force Recon Colonel for over a decade. I've faced much worse than what happened out there. Melissa's eyes widened. Wow, that explains everything. But it's not just about training, Joan added seriously. It's about knowing when to act and when to walk away. That man wasn't just angry. He was insecure. People like that look for easy targets. When you show them you're not one, they don't know what to do. Melissa nodded slowly, taking in Joan's words. I wish I could be that brave. You can be, Joan said simply. Bravery isn't about not feeling fear. It's about standing strong when it matters most. As Melissa absorbed this wisdom, the locker room door creaked open. The middle-aged woman who had checked on Joan earlier peeked in. Sorry to interrupt, she said softly. I just wanted to thank you. You handled that with such dignity. Honestly, it made me think about how often I let people walk all over me. Joan smiled gently. Standing up for yourself isn't easy, but it's necessary. Not just for you, but for everyone watching. The woman nodded thoughtfully. You're right. I needed to see that. Joan slung her bag over her shoulder. We all need reminders sometimes. As she stepped into the cool evening air, Joan felt a quiet sense of purpose. She hadn't planned for any of this to happen, but maybe it needed to. Maybe someone in that gym needed to see what real strength looks like. Not physical power, but composure, resilience, and refusing to let disrespect win. As she walked to her car, she knew the story wasn't just about her. It was about everyone in that gym who would leave with new eyes, a lesson burned into their minds about respect, courage, and the danger of judging someone by appearance. The gym emptied slowly that evening, but what happened stayed fresh in everyone's minds. Conversations flowed among the regulars, some reliving what they'd seen, others questioning why they hadn't acted. The confrontation had triggered something deeper than shock. It forced people to examine their own assumptions and silence. Melissa, still shaken but inspired, sat at the counter after her shift, scrolling through her phone. The video someone had taken of Joan's calm, decisive action was already spreading online. Comments poured in, admiration, disbelief, and soul-searching. She handled it like a true pro. This is what real strength looks like. Why didn't anyone step in sooner? The incident revealed something important. Too often, people underestimate others based on looks, gender, or size. Joan had shattered those false ideas with perfect skill and grace, becoming a symbol of quiet power. Joan sat at home sipping tea, her dog curled at her feet. Her phone kept buzzing with messages from gym members thanking her, praising her courage, or asking for advice. She appreciated their words, but didn't see herself as any kind of hero. For her, it wasn't about attention. It was about standing firm against wrong, no matter how small or large the moment. The next week, she returned to the gym, as humble as ever. People greeted her differently now, respect clear in their smiles and nods. Melissa approached shyly, holding out a card. "Just wanted to say thanks," she said. "You've inspired me." Joan opened the card later at home. Inside was a simple message. "You reminded me that strength comes in many forms. Thank you for showing me what it truly means to stand tall." Melissa wasn't the only one who learned something that day. Everyone who saw what happened, or even just heard about it, walked away with a powerful lesson. Respect must be earned, not given easily. Strength isn't about size or loud talk. It's about inner resolve and courage. It's standing firm when others expect you to crumble. The man never returned to the gym. Whether from shame or fear, no one knew. But his actions left a lasting mark. Not what he intended, but a powerful reminder of what happens when arrogance meets true strength. As Joan reflected on everything, one thought stood out. Maybe the world doesn't need more heroes. Maybe it just needs more people willing to stand their ground and demand the respect they deserve. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to remember the power of respect, strength, and courage. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire, challenge, and stay with you long after you finish reading.